Gospel of Luke chapter 14, verses 1 to 35. Reflection after the verses. Verse 1. And it came to pass as he went into the house of one of the chief Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath day that they watched him. Verse 2. And behold, there was a certain man before him who had dropsy. Verse 3. And Jesus answering spoke to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? Verse 4. And they held their peace, and he took him and healed him and let him go. Verse 5. And he answered them, saying, Which of you shall have an ox or a donkey fallen into a pit, and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day? Verse 6. And they could not answer him again to these things. Reflections on verses 1 to 6. Mercy is greater than man-made rules. Jesus heals a suffering man on the Sabbath, revealing God's heart. Compassion is always lawful. Religious silence exposes their hardness. Jesus shows that human need outweighs ritual. Verse 7. And he put forth a parable to those who were bidden when he marked how they chose out the chief room, saying to them. Verse 8. When you are invited by any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than you be invited by him. Verse 9. And he who invited you and him come and say to you, Give this man place, and you begin with shame to take the lowest room. Verse 10. But when you are invited, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he who invited you comes, he may say to you, Friend, go up higher, then shall you have honor in the presence of those who sit at the table with you. Verse 11. For whoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he who humbles himself shall be exalted. Reflections on verses 7 to 11. Humility is the path to honor. Jesus sees people fighting for status and teaches them the opposite: take the lowest place. God exalts the humble but resists the proud. True greatness begins with a lowly spirit. Verse 12. Then he said also to him who invited him, When you make a dinner or a supper, call not your friends, nor your brothers, nor your relatives, nor rich neighbors, lest they also invite you again, and a recompense be made to you. Verse 13. But when you make a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind. Verse 14. And you shall be blessed, for they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Reflections on verses 12 to 14. Give to those who cannot repay. Real generosity seeks no return. Jesus invites us to bless the forgotten and the broken. Heaven keeps record of what the world overlooks, and eternal reward awaits such love. Verse 15. And when one of those who sat at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, Blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. Verse 16. Then he said to him, A certain man made a great supper and invited many. Verse 17. And sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, Come, for all things are now ready. Verse 18. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said to him, I have bought a piece of land, and I must needs go and see it. I pray you have me excused. Verse 19. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray you have me excused. Verse 20. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. Verse 21. So that servant came and showed his lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind. Verse 22. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as you have commanded, and yet there is room. Verse 23. And the Lord said to the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. Verse 24. For I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste of my supper. Reflections on verses 15 to 24. The great banquet and the tragedy of excuses. The invited guests refuse the feast because of distractions, land, work, relationships. These excuses represent divided hearts. God's invitation goes to the unlikely, the unwanted, the overlooked. His desire is a full house. Refusing his call has eternal consequence. Verse 25. And great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them. Verse 26. If any man comes to me and hates not his father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Verse 27. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Reflections on verses 25 to 27, Costly discipleship. Following Jesus requires supreme loyalty. Hate here means loving him above all others. Christ must be first, even above family and life itself. The cross is not symbolic, it is a daily surrender. Verse 28. For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost whether he has sufficient to finish it? Verse 29. Lest perhaps after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all who behold it begin to mock him. Verse 30. Saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Reflections on verses 28 to 30, count the cost before you begin. A builder must plan before building. So must a disciple. Jesus warns against shallow commitment. A faith that starts strong but quits early brings shame. True discipleship endures. Verse 31. Or what king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consult whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Verse 32. Or else while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and desires conditions of peace. Reflections on verses 31 to 32, surrender when you cannot win. No king fights a war he cannot win. Jesus reminds us that resisting God is a hopeless battle. Wisdom is found in surrendering to the one who holds victory. Verse 33. So likewise whoever of you who does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. Reflection, Jesus makes it plain. Discipleship is not partial. To follow him, we must release our grip on possessions, pride, and self-rule. Christ becomes Lord of all or Lord of none. Verse 34. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its savor, with what shall it be seasoned? Verse 35. It is neither fit for the land nor yet for the dunghill, but men cast it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Reflections on verses 34 to 35, stay salty. Salt that loses its flavor is worthless. Disciples who abandon their calling lose spiritual influence. Jesus calls us to maintain purity, passion, and purpose, to remain distinct in a tasteless world. Final reflection on Luke chapter 14. Luke 14 reveals the heart of discipleship: humility, compassion, surrender, and costly obedience. Jesus confronts pride, challenges excuses, and invites all people to God's banquet of grace. Yet he also makes clear that following him requires everything. True discipleship demands priority, perseverance, and a willingness to leave behind what hinders spiritual growth. The call of Jesus is both an invitation of love and a summons to wholehearted commitment. He desires a people who walk in humility, serve with compassion, and remain faithful with steadfast hearts.